everybody, it's Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. We're here on the Appalachian Trail in Beekman, New York. We're about a quarter-mile south of the Morgan Stewart Memorial Shelter. And we've got a nice backdrop, and we're going to go over my Thunderbird from Dream Hammock. This has been my go-to hammock for the last year. I recently purchased a Sparrow, but I wanted to go over some of the features of the Thunderbird for those of you that might be interested in this particular model. This is my first custom-built hammock. I designed all of the features on it through the Dream Hammock website. I picked out the fabric, the length, the width, the suspension, everything you see on it. So when I go over the features, this is more going to be a review on my particular setup as opposed to some of the setups that you can build for yourself on Dream Hammock. It'll give you an idea of where I feel the pros and cons of my particular hammock are, and hopefully that'll help you out in your future purchase. So I was a newbie when I designed this hammock. When I went through the process of designing it, I looked on the forums, I looked on other websites trying to gather as much information as I could so that I could make an educated decision on all the features that I wanted my hammock to have. So let's do the first one, which is length. When I was doing my research, they said that the longer the hammock, the more comfortable the lay. So I saw hammocks that range from anywhere from 9 to 14 feet, around there. When I started doing more research, it looked like the sweet spot was around 10 to 11 feet. So I ended up going with an 11-foot hammock, mainly because I'm 6'4", so I want a little bit more room, and it seems to be working out really, really nice for me. So I figured out what the length of the hammock that I wanted was. So now, what did I want the suspension to be? There were so many different options out there that it kind of threw me for a loop for a little bit. Did I want to go with whoopee slings? Did I want to go with tree huggers, tree straps, mule tape? Like, there were so many different options out there, but I decided on going on cinch buckles. It seemed the most straightforward, the least amount of fiddle factor. You just run the strap around the tree, run it through the cinch buckle, pull it at your 30-degree angle, and it's good to go. It's been working out nice. I'm happy with it. It's kind of like a no-nonsense thing. So another thing that I got on my hammock was all of these underquilt hooks and tie-out points. As you can see, I have it tied out on the front and on the back. And what that does is it keeps the hammock from flapping in the wind. Kind of keeps it more stable. So that's an add-on that you could put on your hammock also through the Dream Hammock website. So now let's talk about the actual width of the hammock and the fabric that I chose to go with. When I was researching and trying to gather as much information as I could about those two different topics, they kind of go hand in hand. So I weigh 225, and I wanted a fabric that would support me and be comfortable, but that wasn't overkill. And I also had to decide on how wide I wanted it to go. So now, did I want to go with 1.1 Robic? Did I want to go with 1.6 Hyper D, 2.2 Hex? Like, there were so many different options out there. So now what I decided to go with was 1.6 Hyper D fabric. And then when I was on the Dream Hammock website, I noticed that they had a regular Hyper D width and they had an XL width. So the regular Hyper D width goes to 60 inches. I think after it's, the sewing and everything like that, it gets down to around 58 inches. And they also had a wider width, which is 76 inches. Finished version is 74 inches. So once again, when I did the research and tried to see about width and comfortability, blah, 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 like all that stuff, it seemed like it was the wider the hammock, the more comfortable the lay. So in my newbie mindset, I saw Hyper D XL, and I think at that point that I was unaware that it could be cut down to a specific width. So I ordered the widest version possible, which was 74 inches after it was finished, with all the sewing. As far as comfortability, it's amazing because you can get really diagonal, but if I had to do it over again, I would go with a less wide fabric, which when I designed my Sparrow, I ended up going with a finished width of 67 inches, and I think that is right in my sweet spot. I could probably go a little bit less wide, but that's a pretty good width for me. So I went with Hunter Green on the hammock body fabric, and then I went with 1.6 Woodland Camo for the overcover. When you order your overcover, it doesn't come with this vent. It comes as one solid piece of fabric. So I set my overcover back, and Randy, Indiana sewed it on for me for an additional cost. But now I have the ability to vent the hammock with the vent at the top. Some options for the Thunderbird are a removable overcover and a removable bug net. The difference between the Thunderbird and the Sparrow related to that is how the zippers line up. So on the Sparrow, they meet in the middle and zip up to both ends. On the Thunderbird, the zippers start at the foot end and work up to the head end. So when you zipper it up, you're actually finishing off at the top of the hammock. Some people have said that that the zippers are a little bit hard to get to because they're up high. You know, me being so tall, I've never had a problem with it, and I added a little piece of paracord on it so that I can reach it a little easier. But for the most part, it hasn't been an issue for me. So that's most of the features from the outside. Let's take a look on the inside. See, we're sitting in it right now. Got this zipper right here. Zipper continues on up. And then, like I said, there is that vent at the top. You can see how wide this thing is. Zippers up to the top on both sides. Got my ridgeline organizer. If you want to install the ridgeline organizer after you get a Dream Hammock or any other hammock that has a gathered end with a ridgeline on it, you can install these, and I have a video on how to take apart the gathered end of the hammock. It's a good addition if you don't have this. It's what you store, you know, all your odds and ends, headlamp, you know, you can put other stuff in here. So like I said about the width, you can tell that this is a really wide hammock. I don't necessarily think that I would go this wide again, but as far as its comfortability, it's really, really comfortable. So here's the removable bug net. Same as with the overcover, I just have this piece of paracord attached to it on one side, and I have another piece attached to the other side. So here's the setup with the bug net on it. This is my primary way that I take the hammock out with me when I go camping or backpacking. It's a little bit lighter than the one with the overcover. A little bit more light gets in, a little bit more ventilation, so I like this setup. If I'm going to do any winter camping or anything where I need a little bit more insulation, then I'll use the overcover, but this is my primary backpacking hammock setup. So I'll post the weight of each configuration that the Thunderbird is able to be taken out with. If it's taken out with the overcover and the hammock body, it weighs. And the hammock body with the removable bug net is. And here's the hammock body by itself. And here's the weight. The only hiccup I think I had is when I decided to go with the full Hyper D XL fabric instead of getting it cut down a little bit less wide. But other than that, the Hyper D fabric I think is a really good choice. The cinch buckle system, I think it's an easy, no-nonsense way to hang your hammock and is a recommended way. The 11-foot version, once again, I give that a thumbs up. And the underquilt hooks and tie-out points, you know, I like them, I use them. So if you're in the market for a hammock, check out Dream Hammock, check out the Thunderbird version. They have a bunch of different versions, this is just one of them. With that, this is Nick with Triple Nickel Outdoors. Get out there and hang.